whispering tundra sprawled beneath a sky heavy with storm, its icy plains shimmering like a sea of broken mirrors under the faint, flickering aurora borealis. Atop a crooked cliff, lashed by wind that moaned like a grieving widow, stood a ramshackle tower of weathered wood and frost-cracked stone. Its lantern burned fierce and steady, a solitary golden eye glaring into the white abyss. Ember, a lean red fox with fur the color of dying coals, adjusted the flame with trembling paws. Her amber eyes narrowed against the sting of snowflakes. Her tattered green scarf, frayed from years of solitude, whipped around her neck, and her leather harness, stitched with clumsy, desperate repairs, clinked softly as she moved. She muttered to the wind, "Another night, another freeze. You'd think I'd get used to your whining by now." Her voice was rough, edged with a bitterness she wore like armor. Her bushy tail, tipped with a streak of white like a surrendered flag, swept snow from the platform in sharp, irritated flicks. This tower was her exile, her self-made prison. Years ago, her pack, her family, had turned on her, their snarls echoing in her skull still. She dared to challenge their alpha, to question the bloodlust that stained their hunts, and they'd cast her out into this frozen nowhere. "Don't need 'em," she growled, but the lie tasted sour. She leaned against the tower's splintered railing, staring into the swirling white. The lantern's heat kissed her muzzle, a fleeting comfort against the cold that gnawed her bones. She'd built this life, guiding lost souls with her light, never meeting their eyes, never hearing their thanks. It was enough. It had to be. Then a sound sliced through the storm's roar, a faint, quivering howl, fragile as a cracking twig. Ember's ears shot up, her breath hitching. It wasn't the bold cry of a wolf pack, but something small, something broken. She pressed a paw to her chest, where an old ache stirred. "When's tricks?" she snapped, shaking her head. But the howl came again, sharper, pleading. Her gaze darted to the cliff's edge, where snow tumbled into the void. She'd heard cries like that before, her own as a shivering kit, abandoned by those she trusted. "Leave it," she hissed to herself, tail lashing. But her paws moved anyway, snatching her satchel, slinging it over her shoulder. She gripped the lantern, its warmth a lifeline, and stepped to the edge. "Stupid fox," she muttered, her voice trembling with something she refused to name. Hope, maybe, or fear. With a final glance at her lonely tower, she leapt into the storm, the lights swinging wildly as she descended into the unknown. The cliff was a frozen beast, its icy face slick and unforgiving. Ember's claws scraped against it, slipping on jagged outcrops as she half slid, half fell into the tundra below. The lantern clanked against her harness, its flame dancing like a trapped spirit, casting fleeting shadows that twisted in the wind. Snow lashed her face, 1,000 tiny knives biting into her fur, matting it against her shivering frame. Her scarf caught on a rock, tearing further, and she cursed under her breath. "Worthless rag. Should have left you behind, too." She hit the ground hard, knees buckling in a snowdrift that swallowed her up to her thighs. The tundra stretched vast and merciless, a graveyard of skeletal trees clawing at the sky, their branches encased in ice that gleamed faintly under the aurora's ghostly green shimmer. The wind howled louder, a feral scream that drowned her thoughts, but she pressed forward, ears straining for that cub's cry. "Where are you, you little fool?" she growled, her voice lost to the storm. Her tail dragged behind, heavy with snow, a rudder in the white chaos. The howl came again, closer from the east, a ravine's dark maw cutting through the tundra like a wound. Ember waded through the drifts, her breath puffing in ragged clouds. She stumbled over a hidden root, the lantern slipping from her grip. It hit the snow, flame guttering, and she lunged for it, shielding it with her body. "Not now, you stubborn spark," she pleaded, voice cracking. She cradled it close, the heat searing her paws, and pushed on. The storm was a living thing, clawing at her, whispering doubts. "You'll die out here. You're nothing. No one's waiting." The ravine loomed ahead, its walls sheer and glistening, a cathedral of ice swallowed by mist. Ember skidded to a stop, peering down. Her lantern's light caught a glint, silver fur, trembling beneath a fallen pine. A wolf cub, tiny and frail, curled into itself, its violet eyes wide with terror. Ember's breath caught, a lump rising in her throat. "Oh, you poor stupid thing," she whispered, her cynicism melting under the weight of those eyes. She slid down the slope, snow crumbling beneath her, and landed in a crouch beside the cub. The storm roared above, but down here, in this fragile moment, it was just them. Two lost souls in the white void. Ember dropped to her knees, claws digging through the snow that entombed the cub. The little wolf, Luna she'd name her later, whimpered, her silver fur crusted with ice, her oversized paws twitching as she tried to stand. Her violet eyes locked onto Ember's, shimmering with tears, and a soft, broken howl escaped her tiny muzzle. "Easy, kid, easy," Ember said, her voice softening despite the walls she'd built around her heart. She brushed snow from Luna's ears, her paws trembling, not from cold, but from the flood of memories crashing over her. "You're a long way from home," she murmured, unwrapping her scarf with careful pause. It was torn, threadbare, but it was all she had. She draped it over Luna, tucking it around the cub's shivering body. Luna nuzzled into the fabric, seeking warmth, and Ember froze. The cub's touch, soft, trusting, pierced her like an arrow. She hadn't felt closeness since the pack, since the night they'd turned their backs, their growls echoing as she'd fled into the dark. "Don't do this to me," she whispered, half to Luna, half to herself. But her paws lingered, stroking the cub's fur, her resolve cracking. She pulled Luna closer, cradling her against her chest. The cub's heartbeat thudded faintly, a fragile rhythm against Ember's own. "You're not dying on me," she said, voice fierce now. She'd lost too much, her family, her hope, to let this little life slip away. But then, a shadow shifted above. Ember's head snapped up, lantern swinging, its light catching three pairs of glowing green eyes. Snow leopards, sleek, frost-dusted predators, perched on the ravine's edge, their fur rippling with menace. The leader, a hulking brute with a scarred muzzle and a torn ear, bared fangs that glinted like icicles. "Fresh meat," he rasped, his voice a low rumble that sent shivers down Ember's spine. Her tail bristled, hackles rising. She clutched Luna tighter, the cub's whimpers muffled against her harness. "Not today, you mangy rugs," she spat, her amber eyes blazing. The leopards slunk closer, claws clicking on ice, their breath steaming in the cold. Ember's mind raced. She was no fighter, just a fox with a lantern and a grudge. But Luna's tiny paws gripped her, trusting her, and something fierce ignited in her chest. She stood, lantern raised like a torch, and faced the beast. "Come on, then," she snarled, her voice trembling with defiance. "Let's see who blinks first." Ember bolted, Luna pressed against her chest, the cub's warmth a lifeline in the chaos. The leopards leapt after her, their roars swallowed by the storm's fury. Snow blinded her, wind tearing at her fur, but she ran, paws pounding through drifts that threatened to swallow her whole. The lantern swung wildly, its flame a flickering beacon in the whiteout. "Hang on, kid," she shouted, her voice raw, nearly lost to the gale. The lead leopard lunged, jaws snapping inches from her tail. Ember twisted, swinging the lantern with all her might. The flame flared, searing the beast's muzzle, and he yowled, stumbling back. But the others closed in, their claws slashing through snow, eyes glowing like cursed emeralds. Ember's heart hammered. She couldn't fight them all. Not like this. She spotted a frozen river ahead, its surface a cracked mirror under the aurora's faint glow. "Risky as hell," she panted, "but better than being lunch." She skidded onto the ice, claws scrabbling for traction. The river groaned, fissures snaking outward with every step. Luna whimpered, her tiny claws digging into Ember's harness, and Ember gritted her teeth. "I know, I'm scared too," she gasped, dodging another leopard swipe. The ice buckled behind her, a deafening crack splitting the air. She glanced back. The second leopard plunged through, vanishing in a spray of frigid water, his yowl cut short. The leader snarled, hesitating, but the third pressed on, relentless. Ember reached the far bank, lungs burning, and collapsed into a snowbank. She clutched Luna, panting. "We're not done yet." The surviving leopards paced the river's edge, their growls vibrating through the ice. Ember's legs shook, her vision swimming, but she forced herself up. The storm was thickening, a white shroud closing in. She had to find shelter, or Luna's frail warmth would fade forever. "Come on, Fox," she muttered, staggering forward. "You've survived worse." But the weight of those words sank deep, dragging up memories of a night she'd barely endured alone. Ember stumbled into a clearing, the storm a relentless howl around her. A towering ice pillar loomed ahead, its surface glinting like polished steel under the aurora's shifting light. She set Luna behind a snowbank, the cub's violet eyes pleading as Ember pulled away. "Stay put, kid," she ordered, voice firm but cracking. Luna's ears drooped, her tiny paws reaching out, and Ember's chest tightened. "I'll be back," she said softer, a promise she wasn't sure she could keep. She brushed a paw over Luna's head, lingering, then turned to face the threat. The leopards emerged from the blizzard, shadows given form, sleek, deadly, their fur dusted with frost. The leader's scarred face twisted in a cruel grin, his torn ear twitching. "No pack to save you now, Fox," he growled, his voice ablaze against her resolve. His packmate, leaner but no less fierce, circled wide, claws clicking. Ember bared her teeth, tail lashing. "Don't need one," she shot back, but her voice wavered. She was exhausted, paws bleeding, lantern flickering. She wasn't a hero, just a fox who'd stumbled into a fight she couldn't win. Her eyes darted to the pillar. Snow clung heavily to its peak, a precarious overhang. A spark of hope flared. "Come get me, you lazy flea bags," she taunted, darting toward the base. The leopards charged, their roars shaking the air. Ember scrambled up the pillar, claws slipping on ice, lantern clanking against her side. Her muscles screamed, her breath came in gasps, but she pushed higher, snow crumbling beneath her. She reached the top, heart pounding, and slammed her body into the overhang. A thunderous crack split the silence. Snow and ice roared down, a white tidal wave that swallowed the leopards in its fury. Ember leapt clear, tumbling into a drift beside Luna. The cub nuzzled her, unharmed, and Ember coughed, a ragged laugh escaping. "Told you I'd be back," she rasped, pulling Luna close. The leopard's growls faded under the snow, but Ember knew they weren't dead, just stalled. She hugged Luna tighter, her own tears freezing on her muzzle. "We're not safe yet," she whispered, the weight of their survival pressing down like the storm itself. The blizzard raged on, a beast with no mercy. Ember cradled Luna, her strength ebbing with every gust. Snow matted her fur, her paws numb, but she forced herself to stand. "We're not done, kid," she said, voice hoarse. She'd seen wolf tracks near the river. Luna's pack was out there somewhere. She lifted her muzzle and howled, a raw, jagged cry that tore from her throat. It echoed through the tundra, swallowed by the wind. She waited, ears straining, but silence answered. "Come on," she growled, howling again, louder, her chest aching with the effort. Memories clawed at her, her own howls as a kid, lost and alone, unanswered by the pack she'd loved. She shook them off, focusing on Luna's faint heartbeat against her chest. "They'll hear you," she whispered, tucking the cub into her harness. Another howl, this time a distant reply, deep and resonant, cutting through the storm. Ember's ears flicked, her breath catching. "That's them!" She staggered forward, following the sound, the aurora igniting the sky in emerald and violet swirls. Her legs buckled, vision blurring, but she pushed on, step after agonizing step. The leopard's growls echoed faintly. They dug free, their hunt renewed. Ember's heart raced. "You're going home, kid," she said more to herself, a mantra against despair. The aurora pulsed brighter, a beacon in the chaos. She crested a ridge, snow blinding her, and froze. Shadows moved through the white, tall, flowing, their eyes glowing gold. Luna squirmed, yipping softly, and Ember's throat tightened. "Almost there," she breathed, tears stinging her eyes. She'd get Luna back, or die trying. The wolves emerged like phantoms from the storm, their silver manes streaming in the wind. The alpha, a towering female with a notched ear and a mane like spun moonlight, stepped forward, her howl a clarion call that silenced the blizzard's roar. Luna wriggled free, tumbling into the snow with a joyful yelp, her tiny paws kicking up powder. Ember sank to her knees, chest heaving, as the cub bounded toward her mother. The pack surged around Luna, nuzzling her, licking ice from her fur, their deep rumbles a chorus of relief. Ember watched, her lantern dimming in her grip. The alpha's golden eyes met hers, a weighty silence passing between them. "You kept her alive," the wolf rumbled, her voice low and steady. Ember's muzzle trembled. "Had to," she rasped, throat thick with unshed tears. Luna glanced back, violet eyes shining, and Ember forced a smile. "Go on, kid," she said, voice breaking. The pack enveloped Luna, a family reunited, and Ember felt the ache bloom anew, sharp, hollow, familiar. The path name approached, lowering her head. "You're not packless, Fox," she said, her words a quiet thunder. Ember flinched, the echo of her past too loud. "You're nothing to us," her old alpha had snarled. She turned away, clutching her lantern. "I don't need anyone," she lied, her voice a brittle shell. She trudged back into the storm, snow swallowing her tracks, the pack's warmth fading behind her. Luna's yip lingered in her ears, a sound she couldn't unhear, and her chest burned with a grief she couldn't name. The climb to the tower was a slow, brutal march. Ember's paws bled, leaving crimson smears in the snow, her scarf long lost to the wind. The lantern flickered, its flame a dying ember, mirroring the exhaustion that dragged her down. The tundra stretched vast and silent, the aurora fading to a whisper of green. She stumbled, catching herself against a tree, its bark biting into her paw. "Just another night," she muttered, but the words cracked, spilling tears she hadn't shed since that first lonely dawn. She reached the tower, collapsing against its splintered wall. The lantern sputtered out, plunging her into darkness, and she curled into herself, tail wrapping tight. "I don't need them," she whispered, but the lie choked her. Luna was safe, her light had mattered, but the victory was ash in her mouth. She'd saved the cub, but who'd save her? The tower creaked, a hollow sound that mocked her solitude. She pressed a paw to her chest, where Luna's warmth had been, and sobbed, quiet, wrenching gasps that shook her frame. Memories flooded in, the pack's rejection, their snarls as she'd fled, the nights she'd howled to no one. "I'm fine alone," she'd told herself, building this tower, this life. But now with Luna gone, the truth clawed free. She wasn't fine. She was a ghost, haunting her own light. The storm eased outside, but inside her, it raged on, tearing at the wall she'd built. She hugged herself tighter, shivering, and wondered if the tundra would ever let her go. A soft thud snapped her awake. Ember jolted upright, fur matted with frost, her breath puffing in the dim tower. The storm had quieted, dawn breaking in pale pinks and golds over the tundra. She staggered to the platform, paws numb and froze. Paw prints, deep, fresh, circled the tower, weaving through the snow. Wolves. Her heart skipped, a fragile hope flickering. She stepped outside, the cold biting her muzzle, and saw them. Luna's pack, their silver fur glinting in the light. The alpha at the fore, with Luna bouncing beside her. The alpha padded forward, dropping a bundle at Ember's feet, her scarf torn but scented with wolf musk. "You're not alone unless you choose to be," the wolf rumbled, her golden eyes steady. Luna darted past, nuzzling Ember's leg with a gleeful yip. "Stay!" she barked, tail wagging like a metronome of joy. Ember's breath hitched, her walls crumbling under the weight of those words, that touch. She knelt, paws shaking, and stroked Luna's fur. A laugh, shaky, raw, broke free, the first in years. The pack watched, silent but present, their warmth a quiet invitation. Ember clutched the scarf, tears freezing on her muzzle. "I don't know how," she whispered, voice trembling. The alpha tilted her head. "You already have," she said, turning back to her wolves. Luna lingered, pressing her nose to Ember's, and Ember felt it, a tether, fragile but real. She wasn't pack, not yet, but she wasn't nothing either. The tundra seemed less vast, the cold less cruel, as Luna's yips filled the dawn. Days bled into weeks, the tower glowing anew under Ember's care. She tended the lantern with steady paws, its flame burning bright against the tundra's endless white. Her harness bore new patches, wolf fur, a gift from the pack, stitched with clumsy pride. Luna played nearby, chasing snowflakes that danced in the wind, her silver fur catching the light. The pack roamed below, their howls a distant comfort, their patrols a silent promise. Ember leaned against the railing, scarf draped loose around her neck. The aurora pulsed overhead, green and purple ribbons weaving through the sky. A sight she'd once ignored, now a quiet marvel. "Guess I'm stuck with you, kid," she said, voice soft. Luna leapt into her arms, yipping, and Ember caught her, laughing, a sound that echoed over the cliffs. The cub nuzzled her chest, and Ember held her close, the ache in her heart easing, replaced by something warm, something alive. She wasn't pack, not fully, not yet, but the wolves came often, Luna leading them, and Ember learned their names, their scents. She'd howl with them some nights, her voice mingling with theirs, tentative but growing stronger. The tower wasn't just a beacon for wanderers now. It was hers, theirs, a light that held the dark at bay. She looked out over the tundra, Luna snoring softly in her lap, and smiled, faint but real. The storm had taken much, but it had given her this, a family she hadn't known she'd needed, a home she'd never dared to claim.